Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 5, Episode 44 of the Ray Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, who have introduced the first release of the Canadian Club Invitation Series, CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask, all the hallmarks of classic Canadian Club with the added richness and sweetness of sherry. So, as we signed off on last Thursday, Rain, the Ray Dregs Hockey Podcast, I acknowledge that unfortunately I had to head back to Manitoba for a funeral. So coming back yesterday, our intent, Holly, and my intent was to fly back 3 o'clock Central Time, coming out of Winnipeg to Toronto. So we were going to drive from the Cabbage, our lake place, Monday morning. 4-hour drive, not that big of a deal. Get to Winnipeg, jump on a plane, and away you go. Well, Saturday, we learn of something called an Alberta Clipper.
Don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, neither did I, and I grew up on the prairies. But it's a fast-moving storm that brings all kinds of nonsense. Lots of snow, wind, plummeting temperatures, all of that. So it's forecasted to hit rural Manitoba, the lake, like early Sunday evening, and then carry through Monday morning. And we're like, all right, what are we going to do here? And, because we tried to jam in visiting around the services, we've got lots of family and friends out that way. We just had to pull the pin on Sunday, right? I mean, you got to do what's right. So we jump in the car, we drive back. We drive back to Winnipeg on Sunday night, get into Winnipeg at 11 o'clock. And then now all of a sudden, the flights start either being canceled or delayed back to Toronto out of Winnipeg. And we're recording this episode on Tuesday, and I'm like, So we've got the Leafs in Vegas tomorrow being Tuesday. I've got insider trading. I've got the podcast. I've got all these things. And you've traveled extensively, and it's almost like the travel gods, and maybe God rest her soul, Darlene smiled down and went, all right, there's going to be one flight that is uninterrupted that finds its way into Toronto, and we hit it. So
it was you guys.
Yeah, it was us. Yeah, we got back, and
so at least you were in the hotel when the flights were being canceled, right?
Or delayed. Yeah, I mean,
right. Because honestly, the worst part of travel is when you're sitting in the airport.
Yeah,
and the flights start turning red on the board.
Yes,
and yours is still there.
Yeah,
but they're starting to go in order, and you're like, uh-oh.
Well,
and you're like, is there an earlier flight? Can I get on? Should I change? If I change, what if mine's the one that gets out? It's a minefield. And
that exactly happened. I was on the phone with Air Canada about to change from the 2:50 p.m. down to the 12:45. And while we're making the change, she goes, oh, hold on a sec. It just got delayed to 4 p.m. And then ultimately it got canceled. So, I mean, anyway, we ended up making the best of it. Yeah. So, again, just a real quick travel story because I want to compare experiences. Are you a carry-on guy?
100%. Dregs. Yeah. I can travel. I think even with games, I can do over 2 weeks in a carry bag. Almost 3, I think. We have laundry in the hotel, and if you like the shirt I'm wearing today, good, you're going to see it again 6 other times, but that's the way it goes. And I can couple suit jackets, same pair of pants. Yeah, I can do that.
So here's my prediction. I mean, you probably don't. I mean, you travel so much more than I do, so you probably don't even pay attention to it because it's common for you, right? I mean, we're in row 20 or whatever it is, and I'm looking above, and I mean, you can't squeeze a jacket in the storage area anymore, right? Because everybody's bringing in these massive carry-ons. They don't check anymore, or they don't seem to with Air Canada. Here's what's coming down the road. I think it's going to be a class issue, right? If you don't have a certain ticket, you're either going to have to pay for carry-on storage, or they're just not going to allow it. You're going to have to check a bag because of the delays, all the nonsense. Like, it was just one thing.
Okay, so I think it's going the other way. I think I do really, because less bags checked means less personnel on the ground, which means less baggage handling, which is a tighter, right? A tighter nut on the other end.
Yeah.
So, yesterday I'm flying home from Chicago, and the flight attendant says, as the guy's putting his bag, now they can get them on their side.
Yeah.
In the overhead. And they go, "Oh, is that a Toomey bag? Yeah, that one's too long. It won't fit." And I'm like, pretty soon there's going to be, I think what they'll end up doing is saying, here are approved bags.
Yeah.
Or approved sizes. And you'll have to wheel your bag. Everybody's got wheels. So you'll have to wheel it through the thing. And if it gets stopped, out it goes and it checks. And what are they going to do? Because everybody wants to check. I'll tell you, I can't even remember. Well, the last time I checked my bag was when I went on a golf trip, and the head of the driver got snapped off. So if I could have carried on my golf clubs, I would have done that too. But no checking. Checking is a friendship ender. You're on your own at the other end.
Yeah, sorry, I'll see you at the hotel. We're not sharing the cab.
No chance.
All right, let's go into the headlines, brought to you by Tim Hortons. Add the perfect blend of heat and sweet to your next lunch or dinner with Tim's new sweet chili chicken, loaded wrap or bowl. Packed with hearty ingredients like tasty grains, you've got lettuce, you've got fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, and as always, your choice of crispy or slow-cooked chicken only at Tim's. So we're now 10 days from the trade deadline, Ray. And man, there's an old farm saying, I don't chew my cud twice, which is in relation to a cow, right?
Again, and I've learned two things. I've learned the Alberta Clipper and this saying.
You don't chew your cud twice, which means I've already, we've talked about it. There's no reason to talk about it again. Well, in the world of the trade deadline and the days leading up to it, that's all we do, right? That's all, especially on my side of things. But you get the same thing, every radio interview.
What do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think? Could they do this? Could they?
Yeah. I mean, there are teams that are still in the mix, especially in the Western Conference. You look at St. Louis, you look at Minnie. In the East, it's starting to spread a little bit more. But do you see an appetite for significant change? Or do you think that we're just going to be talking about Chris Tanev, Noah Hannafin, maybe Jacob Markstrom, the Philadelphia guys, the Montreal players, like all of that? I mean, hopefully on March 8th, we have a lot to talk about, and all of these players are in play. I'm talking about the next 9 days leading up to March 8th.
Well, I really believe there'll be moves before the deadline. There always is. And, we saw the quick domino of Elias Lindholm. Boom, there goes Sean Monahan. And I think the next wave of that, Dregs, will happen, and a defenseman will go, and all of a sudden, like, let's say Noah Hannafin goes next. Right? He's having a terrific year, and lots of teams would be very interested. If he goes, all of a sudden, Tanev, Sean Walker, Nick Seeler, teams start to get a little antsy. Like, if they're thinking about making a move, they're like, what if we get left with nothing?
Yeah.
And we do want to make a move. So that is, that's how I think that sort of plays out. Like you said, even just mentioning it, all those teams, like, that's a lot of players.
Yeah.
I think there will be significant moves. The one thing that really interesting to me are two teams to watch, Philadelphia and Seattle. Mm-hmm. Because now Philly's in third in the Metro, and they played Cal Peterson on Sunday in goal, and Sunday. Yeah. And it's 7-6. Like, they can't play Sam Ersson all the time. Right. And so without Carter Hart anywhere to be around, it's Ersson.
Yeah.
Well, so Philly's got two choices. Do they make a move to back up Ersson, or do they go ahead and offload Sealer and Lawton, like they've talked about, and maybe and Sean Walker seems to be the most prominent. But if they do that, then they probably fall out of a playoff spot.
Right.
And so they're one. The other, Seattle, has put some wins together. They beat Boston in a shootout yesterday, and I think Boston's played 6 straight overtime games. Like, man, do they get extra pay for that? and so like Jordan Eberle's there. Would they move Eberle or would they re-sign him? Like, Alexander Wenberg seems like he's probably going to go. But if they do that, that means they're kind of saying, this isn't our year to be in. We're going to reload a little bit. So I think those two teams are pretty interesting to watch.
I think Philadelphia is bluffing a little bit. Our good friend Keith Jones and Danny Briere. I mean, every time we just had Jonesy on the podcast, and every time you talk to him, I mean, the offers aren't good enough to move Walker or Sealer, not good enough to move Scotty Lawton. We're open for business, all of that, right? Okay, right. Well, you're also a playoff team. And I keep hearing from the Philadelphia Flyers how much they love Sean Walker and Nick Sealer. And I know that they've at least had initial contract discussions on keeping Sealer, not as much on Walker. But if you like these players and you're a playoff-worthy team, which they are right now, extend them.
Well, no, that's the most dangerous thing to do, because if you extend them and you feel that this season has been a real pleasant surprise, then you get stuck in a year with somebody that's maybe past what they are at this time.
Right.
That's the danger. Is I hate it, but the fact is there is no loyalty, and there shouldn't be.
No.
You have to deal in today. Otherwise, you end up with contracts that you can't stomach in a year or two. Don't forget, in Philly, I don't know the timeline, but Rasmus Ristolainen is out.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, he's going to be back, and that gives them 8 defensemen, although Jamie Drysdale got crushed the other night by Jansen Harkins, and he's got, I think, some kind of upper body thing. They've been playing 7D. Like, they've got a lot of D. And so, I don't know. I think they're bluffing, too, because they're pushing the envelope for the best deal, but I don't see them retaining. I don't.
Okay, dive into the general manager's office of the New Jersey Devils. If you're Tom Fitzgerald, what are you doing? Unless something magical happens here, and it's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible that they find a way to claw into the playoff mix here, right? That's not happening between now and March 8th. So because of injury, shoddy goaltending, and other issues, there's a good chance the Devils are going to miss the playoffs. Do you stand pat and then really try to be as aggressive in the area of goaltending, especially in the offseason, if you like maybe the more options that might be available at that point?
Well, it depends who they're looking at. So they've, you guys have linked them. I say you guys, the insiders have linked them to Markstrom. They've linked them to Saros. Nashville becomes an interesting team because they've got a young guy, Askarov. I wonder if he's learned to hang on to his stick yet. Remember him from the World Juniors?
Yes, yeah.
That kid's stick was all over the place. Anyway.
He's good, though.
He's really good. And so he's the goalie of the future. So Nashville now has won 5 straight, and they're in a playoff spot. And would they move Saros now? And that all gets back to Jersey, because Jersey does not have an NHL number 1 goalie. They don't. And if Schmid is one of your two, he's still a young guy. Vanacek has not shown that he can handle a heavy load, and Nico Dawes they're trying to figure out what he is. If you have designs on being a playoff team, you can't pick and choose and hope and throw darts every night in goal and hope that it's going to be good enough. Now, Timo Meier has been and I know he's been banged up this year, but oh boy, he's been a mess.
Not go well. No.
And that's an 8-year extension. They miss Dougie Hamilton back there. They've got 2 really good but really young defensemen playing big minutes there in Nemitz and Hughes.
Yeah.
I personally don't like the makeup of their team. I think they're too small. I think they're very, very similar in a lot of parts. And maybe those two things come together, the goaltending and changing the mix of the makeup of their team. I thought last year was a lightning bolt for them, and maybe they wouldn't have been in the position they are now had they lost in the first round last year. Had they lost that series, maybe they would have been more apt to make some changes.
Right. Just realizing that you're not quite there yet. Right?
Yeah. Oh, well, and Ollie thinks so too. Ollie just ran it.
Perfect.
Hey, buddy.
I won't mention the team, and I'm not even going to mention the conference. But you know, Saros and the possibility of Nashville trading him, that's been out there. The speculation has been out there. Again, I park it in the category of unlikely, if not completely unexpected, because the one team that I'm going to reference here and not name said the ask from them was astronomical, as you'd expect. I mean, it has to be. I mean, UC Saros is a really good NHL goaltender, but you're talking about a top young NHL forward, another top young prospect, and at least one first-round draft pick for Saros.
Yeah. Well,
and the team just hung up and said, all right, no thanks.
Could you... And so here's something to remember too. This is Barry Trotz's first go round as a GM, and you've known Barry a long time. He's going to set a price, and he's not going to chew his cud twice. He's not. He's gonna
cod or cabbage. You can use cabbage as well.
Can you use cabbage?
I don't chew my cabbage twice. Yeah.
I like cabbage better actually because I don't really know what cud is.
It's a cattle term. It's like hay. It's like
Well, I'm more likely to eat cabbage than cud. So I see a huge price for Saros because I think he's one of those goalies that is a difference maker. He's not a hoper. That you hope he makes the change. But man, that's a big price. It's a big price. So if I'm Jersey,
I'll tell you the team off the air because and that's going to piss a lot of our listeners and those watching off because I'm the insider. I'm supposed to report on this stuff. I can't break confidence in this case, but you'll be not amused, but you'll be entertained by the identity.
Oh, I like this stuff. But so tough times with I think Dregs, the one thing we have to mention and make clear about these 10 days around the deadline is, those things in the middle of the table, I don't know what they're called, that spin around. You put there's the food and the condiments that are on there.
Yeah, I want to say a Lazy Susan, but that's not it. Because the Lazy Susan is the corner cupboard that has that spin around thing, right?
But those things that spin around, the GMs are all sitting around their table, and that thing is spinning around with the players on it. And each time it goes by you, I'm sure they feel, okay, did I make the right choice passing there? Because I want that player. Because the thing's going to spin around to the other 31 guys. And then it comes back to you again. And so I just have this image of the players all sitting on one of those things and just looping around. And you go, oh, too late. Yeah. And then you got to call him back. But now he's on the phone with somebody else. The pressure now it must be immense.
So there's an experienced manager, again, not going to present identity.
What are you doing
I know. But this is a funny one because I asked recently, what? Again, we keep going through this, just a spiral of speculation, but really no substance, which to your point is going to change, obviously. And he goes, well, some are sellers because they aren't very good managers, which in turn makes them not very good as negotiators. Man, is that a zing though, huh?
Yeah.
And it was a simple question. Why aren't we seeing more action? And that was the response I got. Okay, good enough. I get it.
Well, here's the other thing. If a guy is nervous about pulling the trigger as a manager, it's safer to do it in June and July because things are going to settle down before you actually see the fruits of the trade. You do it now and the spotlight's on you now.
Is there a Canadian team? This is a loaded question. I'm kind of radioing you here, but is there a Canadian team that has to make a meaningful trade? Not just a depth trade, but something that matters?
Well, okay, here's the problem with this answer is that 2.5 weeks ago, I would have said, man, the Leafs have to do something. Now, don't you love the Leafs? They've won 7 straight. They don't give up any goals. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, Bertuzzi's going, Domi's going. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I would say that makes them even more likely, to make a deal. But do you believe this? But do you believe this 2.5 weeks, or do you believe the other 4 months of the season? And that's something that Treliving's going to have to decide. Mm-hmm. But as far as I think Edmonton will make a move. I would be stunned if they don't make a move of some significance.
Okay.
I think Vancouver will make a move because they have already, and they've been really aggressive in trying to make a good team a great team.
Yeah.
And I don't see any way Toronto gets through the deadline without a deal. So those 3 teams, I don't see Winnipeg really. Although Kevin Cheveldayoff always seems to have his thumbs in something, and then the trade happens and you go, oh, it's a Paul Stastny, or right. They're always, remember Kevin Hayes.
Yeah. I'm also looking, you probably noticed, Cole Perfetti was on the 4th line the other night, played 7 minutes and 44 seconds.
Yeah.
If Rick Bowness doesn't want to play that kid or put him in a position where you can utilize his skill set, based on the year they're having, maybe Chevy goes out and acquires a 4th line player, almost like a plug-in forward, if you will. I don't know, something to watch.
Well, sure, except you're not suggesting they punt on Perfetti, are you?
No, but
because it's not just about today.
No, it's not. It's not. It's just curious how he's being used. That's all.
Well, and so that always becomes an issue between the manager and the coach.
Yes.
Because the manager goes, you know what? He's not going anywhere, and the coach goes, yeah, well, I'm not playing him.
Kind of feels like that.
And somewhere in there, the coach has to look at the guy sitting in front of him and go, I trust you for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And puts him on the ice. And then the player plays well enough that he goes, okay, I can use you again.
Yeah.
And so the coaches, the thought of the managers and the coaches in harmony, Dregs, all the time is laughable.
Yeah.
That does not happen.
Yeah.
And there are lots of discussions in lots of places about, we have this player, why aren't you using him? And the coach will say, because I don't trust him.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bones
happens all the time.
Yeah. And look, there's a healthy amount of respect, I'm sure, between Kevin Cheveldayoff and Rick Bowness. But at the end of the day, Rick Bowness is at a place in his career where he's running that bench the way he wants.
But here's the thing, Dregs. It doesn't even matter that Bones is near 70. It is, the fact of the matter is, when you're standing behind the bench, it does not matter, or cannot matter, what the general manager has done, because he's going to give you the players. Yeah. And I've learned this talking to enough GMs. They have to keep their hands off the coaching, even if they don't agree with it. Now, they'll discuss lots of things, but you got to keep your hands off the coaching. And if you don't like the coach, then you got to change him.
Yeah.
But you can't tell him, oh, by the way, I'm coaching the team from the box up here. That doesn't work.
So I want to talk about the Chris Chelios jersey retirement, obviously. What a fun night that looked like until Patrick Kane spoiled it in overtime. That's fine.
No, he didn't spoil it. He made it perfect. It was just the way it was supposed to be. It really was.
So we're going to talk about that. Do you want to push Matt Rempe and what he's got going on to Thursday?
Well, I'll just say really quickly.
Yeah.
Matt Rempe is fighting every game. He's fighting, he got thumped the other night.
By Olivier.
But here's the thing. He's like this rush into the league, and he's going to have to settle because you can't do this every game.
No.
You just, physically, you can't do it. The other part is you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
The third part is you have to be able to play, or Peter Laviolette can't put you on the ice.
Right.
Because there's going to be a point that if he doesn't play well, the other tough guys are going to go, you can do whatever you want because nobody cares.
So I think there's an experience in the last couple of games, and we'll move on, but he's on the radar of the NHL. And maybe by extension, the Rangers are too, right? Because he fights Delorier, the Flyers, got tagged pretty good there. He got tagged.
By the way, but he tagged Delorier.
Oh, yeah.
That was, I did the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
you did.
So from the very beginning, Delorier went over to him in warm up.
Yeah.
Asked, told, whatever, that they were going to fight. And that was an old fashioned punch in the face contest.
But
Delorier came away with a big egg too. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
You know how sensitive the league is when it comes to anything head related. I mean, you get a stick or a puck in the mouth, and head office is calling to make sure that player is okay to play the next game.
But if fighting's in the game, they're not punching in the chest. It's not like a dead arm contest that we used to have when we were teenagers, right? They're trying to punch each other in the face.
Yeah, but
remember when Wendell Clark told us when he fought, they used to try and punch through the back of the head. I still get chills of thinking of that.
I didn't like
it's nasty business, man.
Not a doctor by any stretch, any of that. So just an observation. I didn't like the way Matt Rempe left the ice after the Olivier fight. Columbus, he was wobbly.
Okay, but that's what the protocols are for. That's what the doctors are for.
Yeah.
And if he left the ice wobbly and he goes to concussion protocol, then that should be it.
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion.
It is.
But you can't ask Olivier, don't punch so hard.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. No. I
mean, if fighting's in the game,
it's allowed.
We have to.
Yeah.
If it's in the game, you have to look at it and go, these are big men.
Yeah.
And I worry that somebody's going to get really hurt in one of these things.
Yeah.
Agreed. Matt Rempe's 245 pounds.
Yeah.
When these guys punch each other.
6'8"? He's
6'8.5". The force. Sorry, we're gonna go past this, but it's a lightning topic, right?
It is.
It really is. And it didn't look like he was in good shape. And that's going to be another reason he's going to fight less.
Yeah. Is
because you can't keep going to the well.
Well, and just again to put a wrap on this, and it'll continue to get discussed because it's a story of the week, or we'll see if it extends beyond that. But the league did not respond to me when I asked about it. And then I only asked about whether there's an investigation going on, not into the fighting topic. I mean, that's age old. We're never getting past that because it's illegal. You can do it. You get penalized for it. That's why there's a major penalty. And I did not get a response. So anyway, on to more positive things. And let's talk about the Chelios retirement party. You teed it up by saying you knew it was going to be a party. You kind of wish that, you were going to go out for dinner as Cammy did, right?
Yep.
And all of those things.
Yeah, on Saturday night. Yep.
Did you know that Cindy Crawford was going to be part of the entourage? I'm not so. I don't know why that surprised me.
Because
kind of did.
He has this. They call it the Malibu Mob,
okay,
and where Chelly lives out in Malibu, and Cindy Crawford and her husband Randy Gerber, they're part of the Malibu Mob. Now
there you go.
It's John McEnroe and his wife and Eddie Vedder. And so Cammy says on Saturday, they're at this private reception, and Eddie Vedder, she sent me a picture. She's 12 feet watching him play. He played Pearl Jam's playing it for your buddies. It was, and McEnroe played the guitar, and he got up on stage and played, and his wife got up and sang, and everywhere you turned, it's another.
Yeah.
Chelly collects. I just had this, because I wasn't there. I just played against Chelly. I know him through Cammy and through working on TV with him. But, so I was there as the plus one and with Cam. And I was just watching the people that he collects in his life. Because it's not just hockey players.
Yeah.
It was astounding to watch. And they love the guy. And I'll tell you that my two favorite things from the speech, that Chelly's speech, was he talked about how he got up to Moose Jaw to play junior hockey. He was his family moved to San Diego of all places, because his dad was going to open a restaurant out there. And there was not much hockey. He was on the beach. He was learning to surf. He was playing roller hockey. And this scout had seen him play out there, who lived out there, and said, geez, you should go to Moose Jaw. So Chelly's like, all right. And so he jumped in his car and went to Moose Jaw. Didn't know where he was going. But if that scout didn't see him, there was no Chris Chelios. So I love that story. The other one was, so he's talking and he goes, I see the clock here, says I got 6 minutes and 33 seconds left. He talked for 25 more minutes. He blew through that 6.5 minutes.
So good though.
And it was so great. He did an amazing job, and the love he has for the city and the city for him was really, really pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. I thought it was a phenomenal thing. And in overtime, Kane, the play's going down towards Detroit's net, and Kane's kind of hanging back. He's last guy back into the zone, and the puck turned over, and you could just see it, Dregs, because we're up, and you could just see it, and you're like, he's going to get a breakaway. And DeBrincat pushes it up to him, and there was no chance he was not scoring. I texted with Biz because TNT had my brother-in-law Tony on the panel, and I said, it was great to have Tony on. Thanks. And he said, I go, how about this ending? He goes, that was a movie. It was a movie.
So good.
And Kane goes in and scores, and the place erupted. Oh, the other thing is, it was Kane's first game back there. I've never seen an ovation for a returning player like this. He went and did a little turn.
Yeah.
Then they cheered some more. So he did a bigger turn. Then he did a third one. And he goes, I don't know if I did too many of those or not enough. He goes, the guys kept telling me to go back. It was phenomenal. It was an amazing day.
Well, speaking of amazing, just a quick reference to what you just said. Tony Granato was on with TNT, right? Mm-hmm. This is why I think Sidney Crosby will always be viewed as maybe the best, certainly one of the best. There isn't a more genuine human being playing in the game than Sid. And that exchange between Tony Granato and Sidney Crosby was beautiful, right? Especially at the end, because you could tell Sid was right on the verge. It was so heartfelt, which speaks to the deep relationship between Tony and Sidney Crosby. It was just such a wonderful thing.
Well, Tony wanted to go, they asked Tony for Hockey Day in America if he was feeling good enough to be on the panel. He said, sure. He had to go to Atlanta. So he was down there, and, we see him on TV, and we're just thrilled for him, to be there. But the volume of texts and reach outs that Cammy got in particular, for Tony being on there, because people were so happy to see him.
Yeah.
And then everybody noticed Sid's emotion talking to Tony.
Yeah.
And I just want you to I want people to stop for a second and think what that meant to the Granato family. I'm starting to feel it now. Sid's an amazing guy. He really is an amazing person. For all the times people like to kick hockey in the ass, he is one of the greatest ambassadors for this game, for the way he treats people that people never see. They never see it.
Yeah.
Had that interview not gone viral, people wouldn't have known that Sid texts Tony all the time. Always is in touch with people that he's met on children's visits. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I hope Tony doesn't care about this, but we hear from a person who's going through their own cancer battle, and they reach out and talk to us about and send a note about how often Tony texts them to keep positive, to keep fighting. Tony's an amazing, amazing person. And so Sid was just awesome. It was so great to see. We loved it.
Yeah. Everybody did, because it's rare in the world of sport where you can feel the genuine emotion through the TV screen. And in this case, We got that. Those are our headlines, brought to you by Tim Hortons.
Introducing Tim's new sweet chili chicken loaded wraps and bowls. Packed with delicious and hearty ingredients and topped with our new sweet chili sauce. Try Tim's sweet chili chicken loaded wraps and bowls today.
Our interviews on Ray and Dregs brought to us by Canadian Club Whiskey, who have released the Canadian Club Invitation Series CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask. All right, time for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. You can send us your questions on X and Instagram at Ray and Dregs, or on the website, rayanddregs.com. Henrik Roman from Sweden is a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and he's asking, Ray, what should Pittsburgh do at the deadline? Should they tank for next season and beyond, or try and make the playoffs and who knows, maybe even win the Stanley Cup?
The problem is they can't tank because the guys they have are too good to be lousy.
Yeah.
But the team's not good enough to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're stuck. And that was the choice they made, ownership, management, a couple of years ago when they signed Malkin and Letang in particular. And then they went and made the trade for Carlson. And so that's what you've got, a bunch of mid-30s that are playing below what you remember them playing, except for Sid, who's got 32 goals, I think. They're in Vancouver tonight.
Yeah.
And they're stuck. So what could they do? Could they what if they decide to trade Tristan Jarry?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's had statistically a really good year.
Yeah.
He's either great, he's got 6 shutouts, or he can't stop the puck. It's never really in the middle with Jarry. But they just signed him to a 5-year deal. So Dubas would have to go, yeah, that was, so we're going to move forward, right? That's hard to do.
Yeah.
But that could be one player. Because you can't they just signed Ryan Graves to a 6-year contract. They can't trade him.
No.
Because nobody wants the next 5 years.
Right.
So they're in to answer the question, I don't think they try to get better, but I don't think they're going to get appreciably worse, although if they trade Jake Gensel, that pretty well gives you the indication of what they're doing.
Right. All right. Adam Power is asking us to name a couple of teams in each conference, if we can, that with the right moves at the deadline could become a dark horse team in the playoffs. And it's a challenge, right? Because you can look at the top 8 teams right now, and of course it's possible, right? If they stay in that position, maybe they make a trade, they become the Florida Panthers. We don't know this. So do you look just outside that line? Or are you looking at, Nashville or LA in the West? The
See,
East
I think there's like a dark horse would be a team like Florida, and I don't think there's a team like that this year.
No.
I think the teams that you identify as you can see are the best teams, I think the winner is going to come from there. And there's probably about 4 in each conference.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
The team that I'm telling you, the Rangers have one of the most scary combinations because they have a very good defense and they have a goalie that's starting to get red hot. Mm-hmm. And if Shesterkin, like I was in Philly on Saturday afternoon, holy smokes, man, he looks like, oh boy, he looks like 945 Shesterkin. So if they get they're going to need a forward, at least one. If they can pull that off, I think the Rangers are really, really good. And but that's not a dark horse, right?
No,
Florida,
it's so hard to pick a dark horse. Yeah. You're literally
Florida's going to be a
yeah.
bear. Yeah, Florida's going to be a bear to play through. It looks like Boston is finally starting to feel the effects of not having a couple of top centermen, right? That like you can do it for a while, but you miss. And in the West, now we're Mark Stone's out, and I mean, who knows how long that is, right? Like that's a medical issue, not a broken bone thing. Yeah. But can Vegas be good? Is Vancouver good? What's Edmonton going to be like? Colorado would still scare everybody, but they need another centerman. They just got Nichushkin back out of the player assistance program.
Yeah.
Like those are your teams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Vegas is, they're interesting because, they're getting Eichel and Carrier back. Maybe
pretty
on
quick,
this
right?
trip. Maybe on this
pretty
trip.
quick, right?
Yeah, they're on a 5-game road swing. Tonight, I believe, is game 2 against the Leafs. So it's questionable that either of those guys is going to play on this road swing, that they're that close. So there's 2 pretty significant adds amid all of the injury adversity in Vegas. All right, that's Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. What's the travel assignment for Ray Ferraro this week?
I've got I'm doing the Canucks and Penguins tonight, Canucks and Kings on Thursday, and then after that game better not go into overtime, Dregs, because it's a 7:00 start. I got an 11:30 flight. I'm on the red eye because I'm in Detroit Saturday afternoon. So if somebody wants a post-game hit, it's going to be from in my car.
And you won't be checking a bag, will you?
There'll be no check in the bag. I will have the car nose out in the parking spot.
Yeah.
Gone.
I'll
be at the airport in 20 minutes. So that's the week.
All right. Sounds good. We've got episode 45 coming up, hopefully Thursday. We always aim for Thursday, so that'll be the plan again this week. So
And you got a couple of Leaf games, I guess?
We've got one, and that's tonight. That's Vegas and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then, with apologies, just more speculative trolling on the trade front for insider trading. So
we like it. Just maybe next time you could tell us something.
No, I'll tell you off the air when we stop recording.
Okay, perfect.
All right, buddy.
Okay, have a good couple of days, everybody. Thanks, Dregs.
And thanks to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs to make the pod possible. Our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, and Tim Hortons. And yes, thanks to you for listening, for sharing, for rating the podcast, and for following us on the Ray and Dregs YouTube channel as well. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.